CES has come and gone, but there have been a bunch of cool device announcements, and one of those devices is already in the office. What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and AT&T's Pantech Burst is in the house. Now, this is a $50 smartphone, but it's not only a cheap smartphone, it also has 4G LTE capabilities. So AT&T's new 4G LTE service available to the masses at a pretty reasonable price here, and this is a decent smartphone as well. It's packing a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, a 4-inch Super AMOLED display, and a 5-megapixel camera with 720p HD video recording. Is this a device to get? Should you maybe consider a quick messaging device or something else on AT&T? We'll find out in the review. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile because they hook us up with a bunch of phones for use in our One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to, let's say, get the Pantech Burst, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, and all those settings, so when you walk out the door, you're good to go. Mom's got her call settings all set up. She got her camera settings ready to go, and she's good to go at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look at this Pantech Burst. Is this the best 4G LTE device out there for 50 bucks? On to part 2 of the video. Let's take a look at the camera. We'll start right out with the camera, and we'll go in here and take a look. 5-megapixel camera with 720p HD video recording, and if you want to see the video, take a look at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/phonedog, or check it out on the site at phonedog.com, obviously. But I'll bring over my iPhone here so we can take a look at this and get an idea as to how the camera performs. Now, no physical camera button over here. You do have to rely on the on-screen button, and you can see press and hold to zoom in, and then release to take the picture. So you do get some autofocus features there. Let's get something on the screen here. We're going to get the clock pulled up so we can get kind of an accurate indicator of how well it zooms in. Let's see if we can get, I'll hold it up like this. Take a picture. So you can see, decent picture there. This isn't going to win any awards. It's a 5-megapixel camera. It's not going to win any awards for, most amazing picture out there on a mobile device, but given the situation, given lighting being appropriate, given the fact that you're maybe outside in the middle of the day at 2 o'clock, this is going to be more than adequate for those casual pictures. And of course, you can zoom in and out from the actual gallery itself. But a very decent picture there, and with the white background, that actually looks pretty nice. Now, keep in mind, a bunch of lights are shining down right now as I'm shooting this video. So, again, it may be skewed if you're, 7 o'clock at night and the sun's gone down. It may not be the best camera for you, but you do get some editing options out of the gate here, as well as the ability to change it over to a video camera or to front-facing camera. So we'll take a look at some of the editing options. You can switch out the brightness. You can switch out single shot, multi-shot. We can come up here and change white balance, filters, and timers. And then, of course, I can zoom in and out along with some additional settings over here, changing the resolution, focus mode, shutter sounds, and more. So you do get some reasonable options here, but again, just to emphasize, it's not going to replace your point and shoot, nor will the 720p, despite being pretty decent for a mid-range device. It's really not going to replace your HD camcorder. For a quick shot, for a quick video, it's going to be more than adequate. So it's pretty decent. Again, keeping in mind that this is a $50 device, I'm pretty impressed with it. Now let's go in here and take a look at Gmail, for example. Actually, not Gmail. Let's take a look at contacts, because I want to show you again Pantech customizations here. You can see the create new contact and kind of this green color scheme, and just overall the way it looks, a little bit different, a little bit of a different, little deviation, if you will, from stock Android. So you can see your Google contact. It tells you which address it's from, Old Man McTweety at Gmail. It's got this fake mobile number, along with the typical abilities that you see in Android: call or text message. You've got, your Phone Dog as company. I've got the group here. It's in my contacts, and of course, editing options very similar. So you really see the customizations, the Pantech stuff here when you're in edit contacts. A lot of blue color schemes, blue and green up here, and then some minor button changes, things like that. But overall, despite having a skin, you can really see how quick and efficient this device is. And again, kudos to Pantech, because oftentimes when you install a skin, particularly on a mid-range device, if it's not a really well-integrated skin, it slows down. I mean, we've seen this with Moto Blur in the past years, and versions of Sense that are running on 600 megahertz processors. It just really isn't effective unless it's a really well integrated and kind of light and quick user interface. And it seems like they've done a pretty decent job with that. I mean, it's very fast, and again, I've been very impressed with the performance. Pinch to zoom's very responsive, easily come in and out of the 7 home screens. And it's just an impressive performing device for 50 bucks. So if you're looking at this as opposed to something that's maybe this versus the iPhone 3GS, or even this versus the iPhone 4, any of these devices that are kind of at the $50 or $100 price tier, it's a pretty decent performer on that front. So let's take a look at Quadrant Standard here. We'll load this up and get an idea, and while it's loading, I'll tell you a little bit about call quality. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with this device. The earpiece is nice and loud, and it performs well. I took it to an AT&T dead spot. in North Charlotte, and I've been pretty pleased with it. Despite the fact that it was a little bit choppy, it did maintain the call. So it's got a pretty decent wireless radio built in. I've noticed that signal strength doesn't fluctuate as much as other devices. It seems to be a pretty good performer. So if you're in an area where maybe it's a fringe AT&T area, or a challenge spot for AT&T, you're probably going to do decently with this device. Now, 1,650 milliamp hour battery in this device. For me, I've used it for a couple of days now, and with moderate use, I've been able to make it about 10 to 12 hours before the device powers down. That's pretty decent given the fact that it's an Android device and the fact that it has a dual-core processor, and you can see 2,854 on Quadrant Standard. Now, keep in mind, of course, Quadrant Standard is not, the end-all, be-all benchmark, or be-all, end-all, I said that backwards, benchmark. But for 2,854 for a mid-range device, that's pretty impressive. And actually, to me, that's the highest I've ever seen on a mid-range device. So 2,854. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not always indicative of day-to-day performance, but I will say that one's pretty reflective of how I felt with this device. It's a very fast, very zippy device. And again, it's something that I look at this and I'm like, for 50 bucks, heck, I'd carry this device. It's pretty decent. It's built relatively well. And they've really done a killer job with this one. So kudos. I'm pretty impressed with this device coming from Pantech. Now let's just do a recap really quickly in the Android market, so you can see here the changes that they've made. If you're coming into Android perhaps for the first time and you're like, I'm unfamiliar with the market, I'm coming from iOS or I'm coming from Windows Phone, here's the Android market. And you can see they've grouped everything into one easy spot: apps, games, books, and movies. So we can go into apps, for example, and come over here to top paid, top free, and again, pretty responsive. And you can see loading up right now. So we'll go to Facebook for Android, for example, and let it load up. And you can see the screenshots here. And unlike Windows Phone, where it kind of groups everything in individual folders and you have to scroll over to see recent reviews and screenshots and more, it kind of groups everything into one page here. You can see screenshots, you can see what's new, description, reviews, and then, of course, more by Facebook developer and what other users also viewed, along with the options to open it if it's already installed, and then, of course, update it if there's an update available. So you've got plenty of options here, but it's all kind of just plopped into one area, if you will, as opposed to organized, again, like Windows Marketplace, where it's like screenshots, scroll, reviews, scroll, general information, scroll, and more. So here's some of the screenshots. And they've really kind of made the Facebook for Android app look a lot like the iOS app, which is nice because it's a well-designed app. So that's good for them. But again, very easy to use. Again, transition effects, really want to highlight this. They've been relatively responsive for the most part. And I've been pleased. So you can get your music, your movies, and more from the Android market. And then, of course, you can download Google Music and use that as kind of an ecosystem of sorts. If you're coming from something like iOS and you really miss that iTunes ecosystem, it's not as good on Google, but you do get Google Music, and you do have the ability to download music and more in the Android market. Once it reloads with the new market, you'll notice it'll be apps, books, music, and movies. So you do get the ability to download all of that from one easy place, and that's in the Android market. Of course, you can see all your apps in here, manual updates, and you can allow automatic updating, which is a big benefit over iOS. You can come in here and say allow automatic updating, so whenever there's an update for Gmail or an update for YouTube, it'll automatically push it to your device, as opposed to that obnoxious little 1 or 2 icon right below your app store on iOS. So that's a nice little benefit there, nice little perk. And of course, the Gmail integration is second to none. So we'll load up Old Man McTweety so you can see here, let's say, for example, Google Music. We'll come in here and take a look. And you'll see Android 2.3, so no real changes here. You can see the header still stays at the top. But again, I just want to highlight the responsiveness being a mid-range device. Now, it'd be pretty pointless to run a speed test because we're running on Wi-Fi right now, so I can't really give you a true indication of AT&T's 4G LTE speeds. What I will tell you, based on experiences with the other 4G LTE devices like the Nitro HD, the Skyrocket, the Vivid, it performs relatively well. I've seen speeds between 4 and 9 megabits per second. Definitely not as fast as some of these users are reporting in New York and some of these larger markets, but I see between 4 and 9. I think the highest I've ever seen in the city is 11 megabits per second. So very, very fast in comparison to HSPA Plus and even some of the 3G technologies. It's still, at least in this particular area, just a little bit slower than Verizon's 4G LTE in most areas, but I do find that it's relatively consistent, between 4 and 9 megabits per second with occasional bursts of speeds up to 11. So it's very dependent on your market. It's dependent on how they rolled it out. So, take it with a grain of salt. If you're in New York, I've seen speeds, crazy speeds in New York, depending on where you are, 20 to 40 megabits per second. So if you're in a different market, go out there, get an AT&T 4G LTE device, and kind of figure it out on your own. But you do get some nice benefits. Handy memo. This is something that I've kind of criticized Android for. There's no memo application out of the box. So you do get handy memo pre-installed here where you can create some notes out of the box. Create some notes. Can't talk and type at the same time. Create some notes. Get some more. I got an idea. Get some more. I'm going to use all caps because we love people that type in all caps. Come on. Get some more cold, flu, and flu medicine. I'm not sure if I have the cold or flu, but we'll see. Cold and flu medicine. Get some more cold and flu medicine. All caps. So when I read that, I'll be like, get some more cold and flu medicine. It'll be really serious. So I can save it. No, I'm not going to save that because I actually have plenty of cold and flu medication. That's what I've been drugged up on for the past week, so since CES. So my apologies for anything crazy I've said this week. I may not even remember it, but that's a nice benefit. And then, of course, you get some other goodies out of the box. You get AT&T's movies, of course, and then some AT&T applications by AT&T, and then PC Suite. Now, S-Board, I'm not familiar with S-Boards. Let's see. Sharing content with a group. Supported via MMS. Service requires a per basis fee. So registered group. So it looks like a kind of a group where you can share MMS and content and more, kind of like a group MMS feature, if you will, but just kind of an application to do it all in one spot, which is pretty useful. I've used that quite a few times. Then Sketchpad, they actually were showing this off at CES. Just a nice little pad where if you need to take a quick note, come over here and we can change around some of the features, make the lines larger, make them smaller. We can cancel them. We're going to save that. We're going to do a new one. And I can say get groceries. Get groceries. Which, that's terrible handwriting. I want to say get gross ice. Get gross ice. But you can see, that's a nice benefit, a nice addition to the notepad. If for whatever reason you just don't want to type and you're like, I want to jot this out, you can either use a capacitive pen or you can use your finger and use Sketchpad, which is pre-installed on this device. So all in all, really nice device here from Pantech. I'm really impressed with this device and the way it came out. It's got a nice 720p HD camcorder that's pretty decent. You've got a Super AMOLED Plus display. This is the best mid-range device on the market, at least mid-range Android device, as far as I'm concerned. It's going to get some hot competition from some other mid-range devices, some Windows phones. Windows phones really coming up, and it's coming up quickly, and it's going to get some challenges, or get a challenge from the Radar 4G, the Lumia 710, and some of these other mid-range Windows phone devices that offer a pretty decent bang for the buck as well. But on Android and Android alone, you really can't go wrong with the Pantech Burst. I mean, dual-core processor for $50, that's a steal. And I know Mama wants a dual-core processor. What? Of course she does. And that's a good thing. So for somebody that's new to a smartphone, I can't believe I just said what on camera. For somebody that wants dual-core processor, somebody that wants a decent performer, this is the device. And kind of if this continues the trend, gone are the days where I can criticize Android, these low-end Android devices for not having decent specs. With a dual-core processor, with a Super AMOLED display, these things are finally equipped on the low and mid-range scale. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the Pantech Burst. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. We'll have dogfights with this and some of the Windows phones as well in the coming days, so keep it locked on the site. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Head over there, like us. We're always on there. We're talking to you. We're getting your feedback, and we love to hear from you. So like us, Facebook.com/PhoneDog, and we're doing contests from time to time, and that's pretty cool. Follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on my personal Facebook fan page at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Let me know what you think of the Burst. Let me know on Facebook, on Twitter, over email, over fax, over carrier pigeon, whatever, because I'm really curious to see what you think about this new mid-range device from Pantech. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.